but recent research has advanced considerably our knowledge of the man behind the image, and this too is an essential part of understanding the Third Reich. Perhaps the most remarkable change that has come about in historical work on Nazi Germany since the late 20th century, however, has been the increasing intertwining of history and memory. It is now almost impossible to write about the Third Reich in the years of its existence, 1933 to 45, without also thinking about how its memory survived, often in complex and surprising ways, in the post-war years. The essays in this book examine how prominent industrial firms and individual businessmen who became involved, sometimes very heavily indeed, in the crimes of Nazism, tried to suppress the memory of their involvement after the war. Often the transformation of memory took on strange forms, as in the appropriation by Mexicans of the Volkswagen Beetle, originally the Nazi strength through joy car, as a national icon in the late 20th century. Sometimes, however, the growing need to confront the misdeeds of Nazism and expose the complicity and guilt of those who participated in them has led to crude and sweeping condemnation, where historians should be making careful distinctions. The discovery of a wealthy businessman's concealment of his activities in the Third Reich has led to massive exaggerations about his implication in the worst crimes of the regime. The revelation, after decades of careful cover-ups, of the role professional diplomats played in the development of Nazi foreign policy has led to unsupported accusations that they actually drove on the extermination of the Jews rather than merely facilitating it. Bad enough in itself, but not the same thing, and a thesis that implicitly lets the real guilty parties off the hook. Nazi Germany found its climax and fulfillment and also experienced its eventual downfall in the Second World War, and here too there has been a change of perspective since the late 20th century. The war's global scope and connections have now been recognized. There were not two separate wars in East and West, but rather one war with multiple connections between the various theaters. Military history, as this volume shows, can be illuminating in itself, but also needs to be situated in a larger economic and cultural context. Wherever we look, whether at decision-making at the top or at the inventiveness and enterprise of second-rank figures, wider contextual factors remained vital. Finally, in recent years, research has focused increasingly on post-war Germany, where the subterranean continuities with the Nazi era have become steadily more apparent. The ethnic cleansing of millions of undesirable citizens did not end with the Nazis, but continued well into the years after the fall of the Third Reich, though this time directed against Germans rather than being perpetrated by them. Urban planners developed utopias that found expression in the Nazis' idea of the de-urbanized city, but also shared many of their assumptions with visions of the city in other parts of the world. And the growing campaign for the restitution of artworks looted by the Nazis or stolen from their original, often Jewish owners addresses a problem that did not begin with the Third Reich and did not end with its demise. Here again, the long-term perspective helps us understand the problem at hand, which is also a problem of global dimensions. The extension of historical research into the post-war era has further strengthened the close mutual relations between history and memory. The essays collected here show, among other things, that memory needs to be subjected to the close scrutiny of history if it is to stand up, while history's implications for the collective cultural memory of Nazism in the present need to be spelled out with precision as well as with passion. The following chapters, all written in the last 15 years, reflect these major shifts in perception of Nazi Germany, a fact that prompted me to bring them together in a single volume that, it is to be hoped, adds up to more than the sum of its parts. Most of them are extended book reviews that use a new study of one or other aspect of the Third Reich as a starting point for wider reflections, and for this reason there is inevitably a certain amount of overlap and repetition. I have tried to reduce it to a minimum, but sometimes it has been impossible to avoid. Richard J. Evans, Cambridge, March 2014. Part 1. Republic and Reich. 1. Blueprint for genocide? Dotted around the world, there are still a few reminders of the fact that between the 1880s and the First World War, Germany, like other major European powers, possessed an overseas colonial empire. If you go to Windhoek in Namibia, you can still pick up a copy of the Allgemeine Zeitung.